Hello and welcome to Interactive Music Theory Level 1. This is lesson 6 out of 14 lesson. My name is Kelvin Cummings and I'm going to be stepping you through the different things that are going to be useful for you when you're learning about music theory to get you from being a complete novice to having a pretty good understanding of how written music actually looks and sounds as well when you're using your piano, guitar, flute, violin, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what we're going to cover in today's lesson. We're going to have a look at ledger lines, which are extending the notes further than the treble clef or the bass clef or that grand stave that we were talking about last time. We're going to consolidate our knowledge of pitch notation, so figuring out what we already know and being able to kind of lock that in. We're going to learn about crotchet beat rests and their functions and how to draw them. We're going to learn about different types of repeat signs and how they work. There's going to be a couple of key words that go in with that as well. And we're going to introduce you to semitones and begin to understand how all of that works. Now, if you are following us at home, you just make sure that you've got the wee work booklet, which is in the description down below. So if you haven't got a copy of that, download it, print it, and be able to complete the wee tasks as we're going through. You'll notice that there's also an extension puzzle booklet down there as well. And there's also all of the notes for today's session up there as well. The ones we're going to be looking at for today's lesson is going to be on page 10, 33, 14 and 40 of those theory booklets. So let's have a quick wee go. Revision of the treble notes is what we're going to look at first. We're going to look at the revision of our bass notes. We're going to have a look at ledger lines. There's going to be a little bit of speed game, which I'll explain when we get there. Crotchet beat rests, we're going to figure out what the deal with those are. We're going to have a listening task there. In regards to rhythms, we're going to figure out what semitones are. We're going to do a bit of a game to kind of reinforce that. And then we're going to have a look at these repeat signs, which are going to crop up and save us a lot of headache when it comes to us writing pieces of music. And then after that, we've got a game which is going to test you on your Italian terms there, but we'll get to that one there as time goes on. So, quickly revision and a reminder, like in the first few lessons I've discussed with you in quite a bit of detail that certain notes prop up either on the spaces or on the lines. Now, I'm not going to go into that today. You should, from those first few lessons, just kind of be locking that sort of stuff in. With these C's here, we've got a C which tends to be here, which is that middle C, and we've got one which could pop up on that space. Now notice that with the lines, it's a bit of a space between the top and the bottom, but if it's on the space, it is hitting that line at the top and at the bottom there, so it fills up all that area there. We've got a G, would be there. We can also have a G there on a treble clef. So what we're currently working with in regards to that is we've got a G there and a G there. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that we're currently working with. Now we've got a B, which would be here. I'm not going to go into too much detail about where the other ones are, but we've definitely got that one there. We've got an F on that space. Notice how it's hit the top of the line and the top line there and the bottom of that line there, but it's filling just the space, not going over top. We can also, if we wanted to, pop one there as well, because every good boy deserves fruit. So that top one there is an F. So E, we've got one on this line here. So E for everybody, and that E there for that face acronym that we had there as well. So we've got A. We've got one which could potentially go here. Whoops, I'm gonna draw that up a little bit nicer than that. A, and there's another one which was further up and further down, but we'll get to that shortly. We've got a D note, which could be here, or we could have it on the space just beneath here. And we've already covered the C here, but we'll pop it in anyway. So here goes a C on the ledger line there, as well as that. Now that's them on the treble notes. Let's have a quick look at the bass notes. So here goes a C. We can also have a middle C up there. So that there is that key. Alright, so that note and that note are exactly the same. We talked about that within our grand stave stuff in lesson 5. We've got a G which could fit either here. Whoops, kind of interesting. Here. Wait, stop it. Right, okay, I'll use my mouse for the sake of this then. There we go. Oh, there. No, I'm going to write that a bit neater there. So there, or this space here. For our F, that's just before a G, so that one's going to be nice and simple. Boom. We've got an E, which is just before that again. We've got a B, well there goes my C, it's on that space, so the B must be on the line beneath. We've also got one which is up here. We've got an A is just below that, so we could put one here and one on that space there because that one was on the line. And that D is on the middle line. There goes my C on that space, so the D is just above that there. Notice how if it's on the line there's a space below but space above, and it's not a circle, it's kind of more of an ovally sort of shape. There are other versions of this that we could add to, but we're not going to for the sake of this, because in today's lesson I'm wanting you to have a look at what's known as ledger lines. Okay, so ledger lines, these are on page 10 of that workbook, definitions and things. Oh sorry, it's available in the definitions below. So ledger lines, sometimes spelt with L-E-G-E-R, lines are used when notes are written higher, whoops, do that, or lower than the stave. So this one here is on a treble clef. You'll notice that these ones here are below that set of 5 lines and 4 spaces, but that doesn't mean that the notes don't exist. Then we've got our regular ones here, so that for the sake of this, we go D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it carries on. So they're the notes which are just above the clef, the stave, or just below the stave, just representing the ones which are just kind of out of reach. Which means, in order to do that, we need to be counting on. So we need to figure out, well, what are the higher notes and stuff that I know, or what are the lower notes that I currently know, be able to work my way back or forward. So in this case here, we need to figure out exactly where this particular note is. Now, in this case, in fact, I'm just going to make it a little bit clearer this time around. So those there are where I was going to put my answers, but I think I'm going to make it a bit easier. So we know that that's an E, a G, a B, a D, and an F. So that top line is an F, which means that the space above it would be a G, the line above that would be A. So that one there, in this case, is a B. Okay, just from working from that line, space stuff all the way through. So let's work our way through there. So that top line, in fact, I probably should do this. So E. So every good boy deserves. So there we go. There goes our F. So if it's on the top line, that's an F. If it's on the bottom line, it's a low E. This time around here, every good boy deserves. Okay, so that one there is on the space just above the F. So if it's just one after that F, that is going to be a G. This one here, notice how we're going up quite a bit. So if that's a G, go to the line, it's an A. Go to that space, it is a B. Go up there, it's giving us a C. Well, we've got another G with the looks of it here, so let's not even really stress ourselves about that. This one here is on the. This one here is now in the space above where we had that C before. So what's one above C? It's going to give us a D this time around. Now we're going down underneath these notes this time. Now, well, actually, just before I go too far, so that B is quite a high B. Now remember how we had a middle C here? Now, that there, the high C is here. So that particular note there is higher again. So it's a higher B. So it's going. So it's that note. That's how high we're currently playing on a piano here, and that's a high G above that C. So here's my C. So that's that G up there. So we're talking quite high notes. There's a high C. So very high, in fact. Then we've got that one there, which is a D just above it. So very high. Now what we're working now on these treble clefs is the ones which are just below. Now that one there, that first line is, oh sorry, let's go from that E to that D in that space, C, that's our middle C's on that first ledger line. Going back again is a B on that space, go back again, it's an A on that line. Then we go to a G, that's our next octave. So there's G is in that space, so that one there on that line is an F. And it's quite a low F too. So on our piano, so here's the C, it's that F there that we're currently playing, okay? So, that one there, that was an E, go from do a D, and that there is a C. In fact, that's our middle C there. So C, B, A, this one here, going to do a G, which is a C, B, there goes a G there. Notice how I'm stepping to either the space or the line, and I'm just working my way either backwards down this way or forwards up that way there to be able to match it up to the exact note. So if we knew that one there was a C, this one here is on the space beneath it, so what comes before C? That'll be that B note, which here's my middle C, there's my B, okay? And the last one is on the one just before it, because that's on the space, this is on the line, so there goes my A. Just like so. Right, so that there makes sense, all on page 10. Being able to name all of those different notes there. You didn't have to have this, but it's a nice guide for you. Now let's have a look at being able to figure out exactly where these ones are. Now you have to, for this, create notes that are on ledger lines for this task here on page 10. So that means drawing a B here won't work, okay? I'm wanting you to do a B which is either on a ledger line below the stave or above the stave. So what we could do is we could go down here. So notice my ledger line here is quite close to that, and pop in the note. Now that there is that's a C note, but I don't want it to be a C. Oops, I don't want to do that. What I want it to do is I want it to be beneath that. I'm going to just drop that below here. So that there is now a B. So we've got that one there. I could have chosen to go one of the ones further up there as well, but you know, for the sake of this task here, I don't think we need to go too crazy. So let's go for an A this time round. So I'm going to have to go quite low this time because I'm going to have to go down to the next line beneath. So with this one, rather than having it on the space, I'm having it on the line, just beneath. Whoop. Oops. Boom. So there we go. B, there goes my A there. Now G, I could keep coming down here. Oops, actually I'm going to pop that there. Pop that into place like so. Okay. And that next one there will be exactly the same. So yeah, there, and there's a D, a C on the line, B on the space, A on the line, G is underneath. So there we go. So B, A, G, G. These are all quite low notes. Then we've got A would be the same as what we had there for our first letter A there. We'd need two ledger lines to be able to make that work because it has to be on the line this time around. So, boom, like so. And effectively just saying that they are stretched out further than where we were before. G, we already know. Whoops, I'll just make that up a little bit higher. Yep, that's better. Cool. And G, so that must be beneath. And then E. Right, well, we've got a couple of options here. One is that we just keep going down. 1, to, so that would bring us to an A if it was on that line there. Then a G for the space beneath it, be an F on the line beneath that, and then it would be an E beneath that. Okay, so that's one potential way to go with this. Now what we could also do is we could actually go up above as well. So we've got C, D, E, F, G would be sitting on top, A would be on that line, B would be on that space. So we could potentially go and do much the same sort of thing on the top as well. However, I'm wanting you to make sure that you've at least got one legend line to be able to show with each of these, and those G's just sitting on top there wouldn't actually have that. Alright, so same with these F's and A's and things like that. So let's see if we can find one here. So F, I'm going to go the one beneath for the sake of this. On this treble clef, I'm going to go one, whoops, yeah. And I'm going to need a third ledge line for this one here. So that'll be a C. C would be on that line. B would be there. A would be there. G would be there. There's my F on that line. Okay, it's getting a bit messy, I know, but yeah, it does line itself up. For the sake of this one here, I'm going to pop my A. I'm going to choose to do this one above here. So C, D, E, F, G, A. So my A is going to be on this line. Okay, you can choose to put your A underneath, kind of like that one there, but I've just chosen to kind of mix this up a little bit. So the C, nice and simple, I'm just going to choose the middle C there, so that's just on one legend line underneath. So that'll be a nice easy one for me and you to be able to follow. And for an E, now I can choose that one there if I wanted. Let's see if I can go, I'm going to go further up here, just to really mess things up. So that there's an A B would be on that space, a C would be on that line there, a D would be on the space above it, and then an E would be above here. So you can choose to go above or below, that's entirely up to you. But it's important that whichever one you choose, that you are counting up or counting down from where they happen to be. So each of these would be valid. There are other options there to be able to make this correct there on page 10 as well. So, legend lines in the bass clef. Just as much as we were talking about the treble clef there before, we have a whole pile of these notes here as well, which extends on the bass clef there too, making it higher or lower on these particular ones as well. So I'm just writing these up as a guide just to remind you exactly what these notes already are. But do note the fact that from that middle C onwards, we've got ledger lines extending from that, and from that low E going down to that low A. And we're talking about, in this case here, low E. Like we're talking quite low on this piano now. These are extended off that bass clef on page 10. Okay, so let's plop these ones into place. So, which ones are they? Well, we know that we got G is that, F is that line there. G is in that top space. We got an A on that line, a B on that space, a C on that line. That's probably a good one to remember anyway, like a middle C. Then we got a D, an E, that one there, F. Now this one here is just beneath it, so I know that I just need to come back one letter, so that one there should be nice and simple. That one is an E. So this one here, middle C, I'd suggest that you get used to dropping that one into place. So that's just one ledger line above on a bass clef. This one here is just above there, so it's from that line going up to the space, so that's a D. We're going quite high here, so we've got that C to the D, E, F, G. So that's a high G. Now on a bass clef, you play that by, so there's a middle C, here. So you'd normally see that one written in a treble clef. It wouldn't frequently be written in a bass clef. Only reason you probably have that would be if you were playing bass guitar or some bass driven instrument, like double bass or something like that. That would be you playing quite high up on the fretboard to be able to get that particular note there. So well, it's not impossible. Now let's have a look down here. So if we know that that's a C, a B, an A, a G, an F down here, an E, a D, that there is a C. Now we're talking a low C here. There's your middle C, which would have been that one. So it would be about there. That there would be at about this point. The C we're talking about here is, so that's quite low. Alright, so there we go, we got that C. This one here happens to be two of those notes up, so that goes from a C to a D to an E. This one here is on the space below, so that is lower than a C again, that is a B. Just that one note beneath, because remember we're going line, space all the way through. We've got this one here, which is between a C and an E, because there's a C on that line, an E on that line. This is in the space between, so A, B, C, D. Then we've got this one here, which lower than a B, because that B was in that space. This is on the line beneath it, so this is an A, which will sound like this. Okay, I don't even have it on my piano. It's too low for me. Okay, but it's lower than that B, which is low, so it'll be probably about there. All right, so all of that matches up. Now let's see how we go in regards to memorizing some of these ones here. So, what are these notes? In this particular case here, have a bit of a think. If you thought that that one was a G, actually we're just going to verbalize these ones. If you thought that that one was a G, you are correct. In this case here, let's go another 5 of these. So 5 more of these to go. That one there. Now have a think about it. So we know that that's a high C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Should be a D this time around, which we were right. So that's quite a high version of D there too. So 4 more to go. Let's have a go of this one here. So remember that saying that I had you going there before with the treble clef, every good boy deserves fruit. So that one is on that first line, so E for that one there. So that's a nice and easy one for us. 3 to go. Let's have a look at this one here. Which treble clef still? So we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B this time round. Then, was it 2 more to go, I think? Yeah, let's have a go at this one. Bass clef. Careful with this one. Could easily slip up on this one, but because it's a bass clef, we know that's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C for that first lesion line. D for that space. E for that line. That should be an F. Okay, congratulations. We'll go one more, one last one. Bass clef again. We know that if it's on the line, it's a middle C. That's on the space just above. So this one here should be the note straight after, which should be a D. Okay, so that's all we need to do in regards to recognition of this. So ledger lines are just extending the notes further up above the stave of music or further down from the stave of music. And it's really important that you realise whether it's a treble clef or a bass clef. So treble being the right hand of the piano up here, bass clef being the left hand down here. Okay, so let's move on. So on page 33, we've got these things known as crotchet beat rests. Now, these here are like the rest version of that. Each of these is worth 1 beat. Okay, so same with this. This is worth 1 beat rest as well. Okay, so it kind of looks like a little bit of a laser strike sort of thing there, but it's not. It's got and we've got a tracing element here for you. So down, that way, and it kind of curves around a little bit. So da, 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 da. Oh, whoops. Try better than that. 1, 2, 3, and curve. Okay, so that's the sort of thing I want you to do. So trace over that there and get yourself used to that. When it comes to drawing these in, it's important that you start off at the right point, because it's not going to be taking up the whole thing. It's not like that. Okay, we're trying to cross over this line here, and that line here, so it should be past there and be able to wrap up in such a way that it is not hitting that top line, not hitting the bottom line. In fact, you'll notice that there's about a half distance there in between the two of those. So that's the best, out of all of these, that's probably the best one to be able to follow. So give me a line of crotchet beat rests which look like that on page 33. Okay, so da, 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 da. Make sure that it's coming down, you know, relatively straight. So don't come in like that. You're giving me a whole lot in that kind of format there. So zap, 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 curve. Okay. Out of these ones here, which ones are correct and which ones are false? Well, that one there is too high, so that one won't work. This one here would work. This one here is gone down too low, so that one is too far for us there. This one here, I'm going to accept it. It's close to not being accepted, but it's in the right place. This one here, now it's covering the right amount of space, but it's actually going the wrong way if you look very closely, so that one won't work for us. Same with this one, too many zigzags, so that one won't work. Da, 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 and curve, this one would work. This one here, going the wrong way. The following one though, I would accept. If you had one that was drawn like that, you would not be drawing a crotchet beat rest, you'd be drawing just a whole pile of little laser forces there in the bottom of that clef. And this one here, the reality is it should be a bit lower, but I'm going to give it a pass for the sake of today. Okay, so I mean that's real borderline. This one here, you'd quite easily be able to say, I'm not quite sure if I agree with it. Out of each of these though, this one here would probably be the one that would be kind of, yeah, the A+ out of writing it up. Okay, so down to the right, down to the left, down to the right, a little curve there, and it covers the 3 middle lines there. That's all there on page 33. So, knowing that, let's complete these bars. So, we already know that the bars in this case here have 4 crotchet beat lengths, so that was from the time signatures that we've talked about previously. So, we need to figure out exactly how much space we've got left. So, here goes one beat, here goes another beat, here goes another beat. We've got to fill it up with 1 rest. Okay, that there is now a complete bar. Okay, so let's have a quick look here. That's a 1 beat here, that's a 1 beat here, that's 1 beat here. Well, that's only 3 of them done. So let's fill it up with another rest. You need to draw this in here on page 33 of that notebook. We've got, in this case here, a 1 beat here. We've got a quaver, so both of those are worth half. Another whole beat, or yeah, another crotchet there, another beat there. So 1 plus half plus 1, that equals 3 in total, which means that I need that 4th one filled up, like so, to be able to make that bar or that measure actually accurately work. Then we've got this one here. This one goes for 1 beat, that crotchet. That is another crotchet for 1 beat, and that minimum 2 beats. So in this case here, that one's actually perfect. We shouldn't have to touch that at all. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that bar is done. Let's have a look at the second line. So here goes 1 beat. I notice we've got a quaver here and a quaver here. So here's 2 more half beats. So there's 2 so far. Plus another one there. 1, 1.5, 2, 3. We've got space for 1 more here. So here goes my crotchet beat rest. To now make that 100% official, let's have a quick look at this one here. 1 beat, 1 beat, 1 beat, and we've got a gap for this here. Oops, I'm just going to pop in the right place. Perfect. And we've got a 1 beat here. We've got a 1 beat here. Well, that's We've got 2 entire spaces to put in there. We've got 1 of those here, and 1 more of our crotchet beat rests here. That semi-breve, reminder, that goes for 4, whoops, actually we'll just write up the number of beats. So it goes for 4 beats total. Okay, so that takes up that whole bar regardless. So these rests are effectively completing these bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one's sorted now. 1 and half, 1 and that 1 beat there now creates that bar there. That one's already filled. So 1 beat here, that's filled up that bar. That crotchet beat rest there has filled up that bar. That one and that one have been able to complete that bar there, and that semi-breve has been able to make that a complete bar there as well. So it's a matter of being able to make sure that those bars or those measures are 100% full all the way through. Otherwise, they're not really accurate. Now let's have a think about it. The semi-breve is worth 4 crotchets of rest. The minim, which is this one here, sitting on that third line or that middle line, is worth 2 crotchet beat lengths, and this little laser force thing here, that crotchet rest, is worth 1 crotchet beat. Okay, so effectively this last line here, that's the new learning that you've come across. So let's see how that kind of works in principle. Now we've got a couple of other little symbols here as well that you may not be familiar with. We've got one which looks like a little 7 that somebody sat on, and we've got a dot there, but hopefully you're able to make sense of these as we go through. So we've got five listening tasks for you this time around. Now within this here, you're going to be having a think of which of these sound buttons is the written rhythm that you can see. So I'm going to go to number 1 and I'm going to play these here. So a reminder, count the number of notes. That's important. Number 2 is have a think of where are your quicker ones, where are your slower ones, are there any gaps? And just kind of match it up against all of these. So here we go, ready with your blank piece of paper. I'm going to click on that one there. So number 1, we're looking at this one here first. Is it A? I'm going to turn that up a little bit more. So is it A? Is it B? Or is it C? Now I've got my hunch as to what I think it'll be, but let's try this again. So number 1, is it A? Is it B? Or is it C? Okay, make sure you've written down your answer. Give you a couple of moments here and I'll reveal it very, very shortly. Here is your answer for number 1. Okay, so that's your answer for number 1 is B. Congratulations if you got B. Let's have a look at number 2. So we've got some which potentially be longer here. We've got some quavers there which are going to be a bit quicker. Let's see whether you get it right this time around. This is the playing for A. Here's B. And here is C. I've got my hunch as to what it'll be. Let's have a look and see if yours is the same. So here's number 2, A. Okay, here's B. And here is C. Okay, a couple of moments here just for you to get your answer and stuff into place. And if you chose A, you're correct this time round. So let's have a listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Okay, so there we go. There's the answer for number 2. Number 3. So it's in 3/4 time this time around. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That kind of feel, which might sound different, but we'll see how we go. Is it A? Okay. Or is it B? Or is it C? So already I think we've got one that we can completely eliminate. So have a think, is it going to be A? Is it B? Or is it C? Okay, so another couple of moments there just to be able to drop your answer in. And the correct answer this time around is B. Now have a listen to it. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now that hollow one there with the dot, effectively that note there goes for 3 beats. I'll explain why in future lessons. So number 4, it's in 4/4 time again, so we should hear 4 crotchets within each of these bars, or the equivalent of 4 crotchets within each of these bars. Let's see how we go. Okay, there's a lot of notes in that. I wonder if that matches up there. Here goes B. And here goes C. We should have, from our previous knowledge of the stuff that we do know, an idea as to which one this might be. So let's have a look at A again. This is for number 4. Here's B. And here is C. One of those is correct. Write down your answer. And if your answer was C, you're correct. It sounds like this. 1. That there is a symbol saying a half beat rest, but I'm gonna talk about that shortly. Here we go. A 3/4 beat here for your last listening task. So each of these is going to have 3, or the equivalent of 3 beats within this. Let's have a listen to the first playing. So this is 5A. Here's B. And here is C. Okay, I'll play it one last time here and we're going to do our answer pretty much straight away. So here goes A. Here's B. Here's C. Now, you should by now be able to have your answer ready to go. And if you chose C, you'd be accurate. So in this case here, we've got 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there goes your correct answers for these oral puzzles where we're trying to identify the rhythms that are going with them. So well done if you got 5 out of 5. If you got 5 out of 5, put a comment down below. Just pat yourself on the back and various other things there. If you haven't got 5 out of 5, well, hopefully you've been able to identify why it may not be the correct answer. So now we're going to go into something which might be challenging for some. So we're talking about semitones. Now, semitones and tones, which I'm going to talk about in future lessons, are really, really important for us when it comes to being able to build up scales, major scales, minor scales and things, which will happen periodically down the place. And we spoke in the last session about sharps and flats, how they were one semitone either straight above or straight beneath. But now I'm actually explaining what a semitone is. So in this case, on a piano keyboard, a semitone is the smallest distance. Now this is kind of the thing that you really need to be able to think about. It's the smallest distance possible. Okay, so between these two neighboring notes. So for example, if it's a C note, we'll try that again. C, this C sharp is right beside it. So for example, if I'm playing this here, here's my C. C sharp's right beside it. Now we're not talking about this key here. That black key is the very, very next key above. Okay, that one's actually one above again. So if we come back to this again, an E, which is my note here, going up a semitone would be an F. Now notice that these are right beside each other. Okay, I'm not going from here to here, I'm not going from here to there, I'm going straight to the very, very next note. So semitones are often called half steps because they are going straight to the next wee gap. Okay, the very, very next note. So let's do some examples here. So G going to a G sharp, that would be a semitone because they're right beside each other. Let's go B to C, they're right beside each other, so they're a semitone. It's a half step, a semitone right beside each other, the smallest distance possible for a semitone. Equally, let's do one more here. So B down to a B flat, there is no other note between those. They are right beside each other. They are neighbours, which means that in this case here, that B to that B flat, or that A sharp, or whatever you want to call it, is exactly a semitone. It's right beside, it's a neighbouring note. Okay, so that's ultimately, that's what these semitones are. A semitone is a piano keyboard. The semitone is the smallest distance possible between two neighbouring notes, for example, C to a C sharp, or E to an F, or F to an E. It can go either way. And this information here is on page 14 of your booklet. Alright, so do make sure that you're following along with this here, because for some people it can be a bit of a stress. So what is the note which is a semitone higher than G? Well, let's have a look at where our notes are. Now we know that to the left of that is a C. We know that to the right of that is a B. So let's work our way through. So C, D, E, F, G. Cool. Or that one there. So what is a semitone higher than a G? Well, here's my G. It's going to be that one. What's the name of that key? It's a black key just above. It's either going to be a G sharp, or could also be called an A flat, okay? Because it's that black key which is just beforehand. So it could be either of those. So what note is a semitone lower than an E? Let's go different colour than this. Let's go blue. Now C, D, E. I'm going to pop it in a couple of places here. Boom. In fact, I forgot about that one there as well. So, a semitone lower than an E. So, with our blue colour here, that means that we're going from that one to that black key there. There's no other note which is neighbouring that one there just yet. We're going semitone lower. So, lower than an E is that black key there. So, it's either going to be an E flat, or could also be a D sharp this time round. Okay, so a couple of options there for us. Let's go green for this one. So semitone higher than a B. So B, when we're looking at our three black keys, a B is the one just to the right. So that would be a B there as well. Semitone higher means that we're going up to the very, very next note. So it means we're going to here, or in this case here, we're going to there is actually another white key there, and so forth. So that carries on all the way through. So what's that note there? Let's have a look. Here's my B. That's right, it's our C on this one here. So in this case, what's a semitone higher than a B? It's a C. Don't try to write B sharp, okay? Well, it's accurate, sure, but we tend to just call them the regular notes and stuff if we're going up a semitone and stuff to get to a white key. So what is a semitone lower than an F? So here is my F key here, here is my F key here. Semitone lower than that, well, there's no black key there, which means we're going straight to a white key there again, which means we're just going down to that, and it's already labelled, going to an E. this time round. So ultimately, the whole idea here on page 14 is that a semitone is the smallest distance possible. It is a half step, either going to the very, very neighbouring key going up, or a very, very neighbouring key going down. Okay, so that's what a semitone is. Semitone, smallest possible jump there. So, knowing that, we need to figure out exactly how we're going with these ones on page 14 again. So let's name them for a start, just in case you haven't memorised them already. So there's a C, we've got a D. You don't get bonus points for being able to name them. In fact, you should get bonus points for being able to do it without doing this here. So we've got E, that looks like it's an F. We've got a G, we've got a B here. Okay, so from that C to that D, this is where going back to that keyboard is quite important. Now I've gone to this website here. This is called onlinepianist.com, and this is virtual piano. If you just did a Google search for virtual piano, there's a series of them, but I find this one quite useful here at onlinepianist.com. So the note that we were after here was a C going to a D. So here's my C. The D is here. However, if it's a semitone I'm looking for, here's my C. C sharp should be my next one here. So that's C sharp is my neighbouring key, not D. Even though they're right beside each other here, the realistic note that is right beside it is that black key before it gets to that D. You can hear it. Like it gets progressively higher in pitch. So circle semitones, well, that one there is not. It's going too many. So let's go F to an F sharp this time around. So here's my F. And here's my F sharp. Is there anything in between? Are they, well, are they neighbouring notes? Well, as they are neighbouring notes, they are a semitone. They are one of the ones here. Let's go from this E to this F this time around here on page 14. So we're looking for an E, and we're going to an F. In this case here, those are right beside each other. There is no other keys in between. There's no black key in between there. They are right beside each other. So is that a semitone? Yes, it is. Now we've got this G going to a B. Now I already have a feeling about this one because I know that there should be an A in there. So they're definitely not going to be in the place there. But let's have a look at just how far away they are. So here goes an G, and it's wanting to test us to see whether there's a semitone to get to here. In this case, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. So it's way too many. So this one here, absolutely not. Bass clef notes. Let's have a quick wee look at this one. So this one here is a G note. We've got an A here. We've got, that looks like an E note there on the bass clef. We've got an F here. We've got an E here and an E flat this time around here because we've got that flat symbol. Then we've got a C and a C sharp. Okay, so G to an A. Let's have a quick wee look here. G to A. These are lower notes. G, A. This time around, that G, the proper semitone should have been G to a G sharp. A's too far, so that one will not cut it. Here goes my E to my F. This is low ones down here, so E, F, and they're right beside each other. There we go, that Jaws theme. But in this case here, those are right beside each other. That is a semitone. Here we go, we've got an E, and then we're going to an E flat this time. E, E flat. Notice how they're right beside each other. They're neighbouring notes. Because they're neighbouring notes, it's the shortest distance possible. It is a semitone. Now, we've got this one here. That's a C, a middle C, going up to a C sharp. Here's my C. Here's my C sharp. Notice they're right beside each other. They are neighbouring notes this time around here, so that does count as a semitone. All right, so again, re-emphasising here on page 14, the idea of a semitone is that it is the smallest distance possible. They are neighbouring notes, either going higher or lower. If you've got anything else in between, it's not a semitone, okay? So that's what we're looking at for these ones here. So these ones here, circle which ones are the correct examples. I'll give you a couple of moments there to have a think. So these notes here, these notes here, these notes here. Well, we know that the sharp is higher than a regular note. So that one is the highest there. Sharp is higher than the natural. That's bringing it back to the white key. So sharp, top of the class, natural back down. We got an E going to an E flat this time. So that E would be the highest one. We've got that B flat going to a B note, so that there is the high note out of those two there. Okay. All of these are examples of semitones. They're all right beside each other. Okay. So semitones. Let's have a quick look this time here. So C to a D, nope. But this one is a semitone. E to an F. F to a G, well, we've got an F sharp in between, so that won't work. A G to an A, got a G sharp in between there as well. Same there. But that G to an F sharp, that is because that G to that F sharp are right beside each other. Okay, so F sharp to that G there is another one. So that's just basically that in reverse. C to a B. Let's have a think. C, B. Is there anything in between? Nope. They are neighbouring notes. So in this case here, those are semitones. That B going down to that A won't work because that B to that A, there's a black key in between there, so that's not a semitone. That A going down to that G won't work because that A has got a black key in between there, so those aren't semitones. There's too much of a jump there, but that B to that C is a semitone there on page 14. Right, let's have a quick wee gander here. So, in this, which note is a half step below D flat? Well, we kind of have to figure out exactly where D flat is. So D being here, so that would be a D flat here. So what's a half step below that D flat? If you said it was a C, you would be correct. Okay, we'll do another 2 of these. So in this case, which is a half step below A flat. Well, let's have a look at where our A flat is. So we'll go C, D, E, F, G, A. So that's an A note. So that must be an A flat, that black key there. So half step below, or a semitone below, it's that one there. So in this case, if you chose G, you would be correct. Nice. All right. And then we have this one here, which is, so we'll make this our last one for the sake of this. Right, which is a half step below, got a lot of belows here, a C. So here goes my C. We're looking for the one which is a half step or a semitone below. We know that the neighbouring note is this one here, which is a B. So in this case, the half step below would be a B. Okay, so all of that is to do with being able to find those gaps in between, and where a semitone is the very, very next note going up or back. So it's the neighbouring note, the smallest distance possible. All right, so that's what semitones are. The final part of this lesson is going to be looking at repeat signs, and all of this work here is on page 40. So a repeat sign tells the player to go back to the beginning of a piece of music to play it for a second time. Now, for example, in this particular melody here, we've got a C, D, E, F, G, G. We've got A, F, G, F, E, D. We've got a B, and then we've got a C. Then we've got this symbol here. Now, when we come across that, it's a double bar line. So normally that would be an end. But notice with this one here, how we've got 2 dots in there. So I'll just make it a bit clearer for those. A bit clearer for those ones who can't quite see it. So it's 2 lines there and 2 dots placed in like so. Now, by having that symbol in there, that means it's going to go that melody that we played, it's going to go straight back to the top, and it's going to play it all again for a second time. It doesn't keep going like that unless it specifies that that's the case. When a passage of music needs to be repeated, but not from the start, dots will appear facing the other way to show that they are repeated from a certain point. So for example, in this case, unlike with this one where it played all of that, and then it did it all over again, this time it's going to play as far as those double bar lines, and then it's going to go back to a point there where it finds its opposite, which is in this particular case here. So the second time playing is going to come back. So we've had all that melody there, playing all of that melody there, all of that melody up to that point, but then it's going to come back to here, not back to the start. So it'll carry on from there, and for the sake of this it carries on from there, and because that's not a double bar line, it's going to carry on wherever that music happened to be. The reason for having these repeat signs is that it's a way for the person who's writing the piece of music not to have to write the same thing time and time again. Equally, it's easier for the musician to be able to have everything just on that one page, because it says, well, play this, but play it twice. So that becomes a lot easier for the musician to be able to kind of get their head around what it is that they're exactly playing. Okay, so let's move on. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add a sign to this particular one here on page 40, which is going to explain that this piece of music here, that all the way through, is going to be played twice. Now we're going to do this plain and simply by the end of the piece of music, double bar line, double bar line, and the dots, one, I'll actually make sure I get that in the right place, 1 and 2. Now just a reminder, these here, now we'll make sure that we've got them on that stave of music, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. It's the dot in that space and that space. That's where the dots are supposed to be. Okay, so by us adding that symbol there, that means that in this case here it's going to play all the way through to here. Then it's going to come all the way back and play it again for a second time. And it looks like in this case here, according to that flat symbol, that we're going to be playing a B flat at some point, but yeah, it hasn't required us to do so. So what we're going to do for this one here on page 40 is we're going to add signs to be able to make sure that the music from bar 5 to bar 8 are repeated, so not back from the start. So let's have a think about it. I'm going to do this blue pencil or pen for this. So here's bar 1, here's bar 2, this is bar 3, bar 4, bar 5, bar 6, bar 7, and that is bar 8. Okay, so what we're wanting to do in this case here is we want to put repeat symbols that are going to repeat bar 5 to 8 again. So we're going to play this much of the song all the way through to here, but we want to play it from here to here for a second time. So we need this symbol here at the end of bar 8 with those dots, make sure you've got them in place, but we need its opposite where we're wanting to be playing it from. So in this case here it is bar 5. So here goes one of those lines, the second of those lines, and then those opposite dots. So that there is now said to the musician that I'm playing bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, bar 5, bar 6, bar 7, bar 8. Then I come back, because I got that repeat symbol, to its opposite, which is here. So I'm now playing bar 5 again, bar 6 again, bar 7 again, bar 8 again, and if that's the end of the music, so be it, we're done. If it is going to carry on, then we'll probably see more staves of music following up afterwards. Okay, so those there, that's a repeat symbol if you wanted to go back. That's the kind of mark of where you're coming back to, and that's all on page 40. Now, there's an Italian da capo, or DC, means that you go from the beginning. Now it tells the player to return and play again from the very start of the piece of music. So it's kind of like what we had there before, but it's just kind of a wee, like worded cue to be able to get us back. So for in this case here, we'd be playing bar 1, 2, bar 3, bar 4, this is bar 5, bar 6, bar 7, and bar 8 this time around. So playing all of that all the way through, and that DC, or the capo, DC, means that it wants us to go right back to the beginning. So we do. We come back to the beginning in this case here. Usually though, you'll find the word fini, sounds like finish. So when you see fini, it means the finish, okay? Fini, finish. Therefore, you see that in the piece of music, it will look like this. So, we're going to play bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through. Then, da capo means we're going to come back to bar 1. And we're going to keep going there until we see fini. Notice how it's got that double bar line? So we've got that cue there ready for us again. But in this particular instance here, fini is meaning done. So you play bar 1 through to 8. Then we're going to play bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4 again, and we're going to stop here where it had fini. Okay? So in this case here, playing all of those ones, and then the first 4 get played just to the end. Okay? They're on page 40. Right. In addition to that, there's also an Italian term called the segno, or shown with a DS, which means from the sign. So a segno sign is this thing here. Alright, which kind of looks like an S on its side. So we've got a line through there and a dot and a dot. Okay, there obviously looks a lot better than mine, but you get the idea of it. So within this piece of music here, this 3/4, we got bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4. There goes our symbol here, but this is still bar 5, bar 6, bar 7, bar 8, bar 9 after this fini, bar 10, bar 11, and bar 12. Right, so we've got a few things in this which are going to be able to express exactly where we're going. So in this particular example, we play through the end. So we've got bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we've got this DS, do segno, or DS, el fini, which effectively means from the sign. So we're going to go all of this, go back to the sign, there it goes, that segno, and we're going to go through till el fini. So you're going to keep going until you get to fini. So, in this case here, bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're carrying on, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then, here's the second playing. From del segno, from 5, it's repeating 6, 7, 8, 9, and here's fini here, double bar line. Okay, so we have da capo, meaning we go straight back to the start, and then we obviously finish off at fini or back at the end. Da segno, meaning go back to the sign, means that we play everything up to that point there, go to the sign, and in this case here it's told us to stop playing it as soon as it gets to fini. Okay, so da capo, just a last reminder, to the beginning, del segno, means return to the segno or the sign. Fini, it means finish. DS is short for del segno, which is returning to the sign. And DC is short for da capo, which means go back to the beginning. So practice yourself some of these little S's here. I'm going to practice myself some as well because my ones are horrendous. We've got the S there, a couple of dots there. Kind of S-y sort of symbol there, a couple of dots and so forth. That one there's probably my favourite out of that lot there. Right, to finish off for today, this extension puzzle requires a little bit of work on your part. With this one, we're familiar with crotchets, single quavers, paired quavers, crotchet rests, and that's a quaver rest. We haven't really spoken about that, but whenever you see that sort of symbol there, we're going to make sure that we're going to include that here as well. Now, there's an answer that will ultimately come from this, but what we're needing to do to succeed in this particular thing is find these symbols. Now let's see, crotchet, can we find a crotchet on here? Well, I can find one right here. Okay, so the job is, if you find one of those crotchets, you need to create a cross from the left, or the box to the left to the right, like so, and from top to bottom. So basically you're eliminating boxes within this puzzle. Let's see if we can find another one. Here's one here. I can see one here. And see one here as well as here. You just keep eliminating all of these boxes of crotchets, of quavers, of paired quavers, crotchet rests, and quaver rests. And what you should be left with at the end is some letters. So you just need to be able to grab all of those letters that are still remaining at the end after crossing out all of those different things there, and you should be able to get yourself the answer to this question, which is the tail end of today's lesson. Who wrote the famous song Für Elise? Okay, but that is it for this lesson here. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Kelvin Cummings, and I look forward to catching up with you again for our next interactive music theory on level 1 session. Make sure that if you haven't already, that you have subscribed and have also ticked the notification bell so that you're able to get any future content there as well. But until then, I'll catch you next time. See you later.